Hey guys, and welcome to a quick look at the Matchbox NATO Paratroopers. Titled NATO Paratroopers and released in 1983. These were quite obviously British paratroopers. The depiction there on in the box art clearly demonstrates the Falkland Islands, which was a conflict that concluded in the previous year, 1982. As we probably know, fought between Argentina and Great Britain for control and possession of the Falklands Islands off the coast of Argentina. Now, unfortunately, Matchbox didn't do any Argentinians to provide opponents for these guys, but that doesn't matter for today's review anyway. So, the box art here, as you can see, fairly typical Matchbox fare again. You have your figures depicted on the box cover there, with the various poses, or at least some of the poses depicted, and nicely painted as well. This one I don't think is done by Doug Post, but I'd be willing to be corrected on that. It doesn't look like his work, but quite detailed in fairness, nicely done at the same time. Nice detail in the camouflage DPM jackets there, I must say. It looks quite well. On the left hand side you have a guy advancing with a Sterling submachine gun, follow on from the Sten. You have a lad operating a mortar, chap kneeling firing an SLR 7.62mm, semi-automatic variant of the FNFAL. In the front here we have, on the left you have a GPMG, general purpose machine gun operators, again 7.62mm light machine gun. Officer in the front armed with pistol, guy in the back again with the SLR standing firing position. Chap with a radio, also armed with SLR, although more likely he would have been armed with the Sterling in reality, but possibly maybe not. And a chap firing what looks like a Carl Gustaf rocket launcher, for want of a better term. In the background, of course, obviously then snowy peaks, could be, tumble down, that type of thing. So fairly obvious this is for the Falklands periods, although of course they would have worked well for any Northwest Europe, British forces occupying the Rhine area, Northern Irish scenario at the same time, so quite nice. Just a quick look at the box here. Again at the back you have quick painting guide, usual story. It says 42 figures, or 40 figures, unpainted paratroops, 2 mortars. I think there was 42 actually, 13 poses anyway, a little bit lower than their normal 15 to 17 poses that Matchbox would have done. Unfortunately, this was the last range of release of 176 plastic soldiers that Matchbox released back in '83, which is the end of their manufacture of soldiers, unfortunately. Side of the box there, you see the date, '83. One of the crew serve weapons is the GPMG with the assistant. End of the box here again, artwork, lad again, officer in the front, and 2 infantrymen at the back there. And again, a little painting guide and depiction on the side there of what's contained within the box. On the other side of the box there as well, so you can see the various troopers there as what you would be getting upon purchase. Now, the sprue, I'm going to use the Revell sprue just to show you. Actually, I should show you the Revell box while we're at it. So, again, Revell in 2013 re-released the 176 range of NATO paratroopers, but in fairness they called them British paratroopers and termed them Falklands War. This is a German company, they don't mess around, they know it's Falklands War. So, depicted there, again, quite a nice little bit of artwork, I must say. One of my favourites of the Revell re-releases. I don't really like the artwork that they did, I keep mentioning that. But this one is actually not bad at all. The Harrier in the background there, I'm not sure how accurate the Harrier is as regards to colour scheme, but other than that, looks pretty good. They're depicted with the, 1958 or 1957, 58 webbing there in the front there as well. It's quite nice. All around, pretty straightforward box depiction. So, again, side of the box, straightforward again. Release date 2013. End of the box, little blurb there about the Falklands campaign. Yeah, no problem. And on the back then, colour scheme. Always that pertains to Revell's own brand of colours. Fair enough, it's become their product, so they're more than entitled to do that. If you're using any other colours, you can obviously utilise conversion charts which are available online. I always use the Humbrol range of colours because I'm a traditionalist and that's what I used when I was a kid, so that's what I use now in my 40s. I just brush them on and I don't use sprays, I don't use anything like that. So basically I'm a very, very old school sort of painter. But obviously you can use whatever you wish. So that's the Revell box there. Let's quick look at the Revell Sprue. As you can see, nice dark plastic, fairly good consistency. Straightforward enough. There's your bits and pieces. You get 2 GPMGs, a couple of L4A4 light machine guns, which are follow on from the Bren. There is a 7.62mm version of the .303-inch Bren. Then you have the I suppose that's supposed to be the Carl Gustaf rocket launcher, missile launcher, whatever you want to call it. There are 2 of those guys, some NCOs with a Sterling, guys with the SLR. Again, some guys kind of crouching forward with the SLR. Hope this is in focus. Radio operator. I like the radio operator, actually, it's a cool pose. It's quite nice. So that's that Sprue. Put that out of the way. Here we have the Mortars, a small skinny little affair. Officer in the front there. Guy advancing, one of those unrealistic high leg kickback sort of poses. I never really liked those. I don't really know anyone who runs like that. Even the gangliest of acquaintances don't have a gait of such a weird description. But still, at the same time, it looks good enough. Chap advancing with the SLR in ready position, kneeling, and mortar operator. You only got 1 guy for each mortar, unfortunately, and the pose wasn't great, but you'll see what I did with mine now shortly enough. I'll show you some painted figures. Yeah, so that is the Sprue basically there. Originally they came in this green plastic. Excuse my dirty nails, I've got a load of paint stuck under them which I couldn't get out. So that's the kind of original green plastic. This is one of the ones I actually had as a kid. Still has the mud from his last battle in my parents' backyard. Same with this guy. Yeah, so that was a light green plastic. And here's the aforementioned skinny little mortar. Okay, now what I did was, I'm just going to show you some painted figures. What I did was I converted these to be suitable for World War II use, because I do not have any major use for anything beyond 1945 in my collection. I generally wargame rapid fire with 176, 172, 20mm, whatever you want to call it, figures and vehicles. So literally something from the Falklands period would have been totally out of sync with all that. So I utilised some weapons which I got from a company called Sergeant's Mess, sergeantmess.co.uk, I think. Great little company, very quick to deliver, lovely little packets of white metal weapons there. You have, I got a packet of late war, early war, and some German bits and pieces as well for other conversions I'm doing. All came in well under €20, if I remember correctly, including postage. Thereabouts, certainly under 25. And it was over here in Tipperary in Ireland very, very quickly from the UK. So couldn't fault the company. Massive thumbs up to them. Nice little range of stuff. Within that you got within the 2 bags of British stuff, I got the 2-inch mortar, a couple of those. I got a couple of 3-inch mortars, some Piats, some boys anti-tank rifles, Vickers, Brens, various. Have a look at the website. It's all there. But very, very handy and easy to work with, easy to trim as well, which is quite important for the conversions, which I'll show you now in a moment. So just literally a sharp scalpel took care of all that for me. Now let's have a look at some of the painted figures, shall we, just to move along. So because there were conversions, I used some other figures as well from the Matchbox range. As you can see here in the front, I've used from the British Infantry set. I have utilised this guy who we often refer to as a tank commander. Now I probably should have done his shirt in the camouflage, should have left it in the khaki brown, but I was an afterthought. So basically just used Humbrol 73 for the berets. 83, 72, and 26, I think, were the other colours utilised for the main parts of the uniform. 26 being the pants. And oh yeah, 113 I think was the brown colour, so that's him there. I also utilised Montgomery. Just getting these guys out of the way here before we get to the meat and veg of the NATO guys. Montgomery from the 8th Army. And gave him a MP40, which came from some sort of a kit that I had in the spares box. Again, a officer from the 8th Army, just with the head taken off a NATO paratrooper and planted on the top of this guy. This is the officer from the 8th Army, and has a kind of battle jerkin as well, which makes it look quite period as well, so it's quite good. That was the original officer from the NATO paratroopers. Again, just painted up. The badges are a little bit large, painted on their heads, I think, unfortunately, but there you go. Now, as I say, that was the 1957 or 58 pattern webbing, which kind of has the large pouches on the kidneys in this guy. I could have positioned them more correctly up on the chest area if I wanted to, but that was kind of too much messing around for an entire battalion of 50 or so figures, so I just decided to let them go as it was. It's on my table, no one's going to see it, only me. As long as they're painted up correctly, it's not too bad. So I mean, the backpack and the strapping and stuff is incorrect as regards World War II, but as I say, who's going to see it, only me. The colour scheme I used, just as I said earlier, is actually from the Airfix colour scheme. I was trying to get something as true to period as possible as regards Matchbox. So from that perspective, Airfix was the closest I could find, using the Humbrol colours, so I said I would stick with that. There's another little conversion as well from the British Infantry flamethrower, just literally a head plonked onto the flamethrower figure. Conversion here, this is the chap who was using the Carl Gustaf. I took a Panzer Schreck from Plastic Soldier Company 251 half-track sprue and planked it on there. The reason I used the Plastic Soldier Company as opposed to the Sergeant Mess was because these guys are 176, they're a little bit smaller than 172, and I just found that the Sergeant's Mess Panzer Schreck was a little large, whereas for some reason the Plastic Soldier Company was more in keeping, even though it's supposed to be 172 as well. But that's just what happened there with that. So I literally just chopped out the Carl Gustaf that this guy had and plonked in that Panzer Schreck. As usual, flocked with a little bit of just regular Hornby flock and based on a beer mat. The other conversion I used was, because we needed a Vickers, that's the Sergeant's Mess Vickers there on a stand from Matchbox 8th Army. The gunner is actually from the Matchbox Anzac range. Again, head chopped and NATO paratrooper head plonked on top of him. Assistant gunner is from the NATO paratrooper GPMG set, whatever we call it, with an ammo belt from Sergeant's Mess stuck onto the box. I believe he's probably at the wrong side of that Vickers, but it was to do with the layout of the assistant gunner, so I couldn't do much about that. So that's the Vickers. So what else have we got there? We might as well have a look at the GPMG here again. GPMG gunner there, as seen with the Vickers. Okay, there's the GPMG gunner line there. The only difference is it's not a GPMG has, it is actually a MG42, which I had in the spares box from some kit from many years ago. A Hanomag or something, so I just plonked that in there, took out the GPMG and used it as sort of like another captured weapon, same as the Panzer Schreck, so that came up okay in fairness. I think it looks quite well. I'm sure the paratroopers or any other body of men would have utilised captured weapons if and when they had to. This then is the L4A4, I think it is again, the 7.62mm version of the Bren. I could have chopped out the Bren and put in an older style Bren. I just said, look, to hell with it. I was only doing 2 or 3 of these guys. I couldn't have been bothered, really, to be fair. It was just too much messing around. I had done so many conversions, as I'll show you in a moment, that this was just, I was happy enough to leave it as it was. It's only on my table anyway, no one's going to notice. Again, utilising the GPMG gunner, chopped out, or sorry, the L4A4 gunner, a Piat from the Sergeant's Mess range there, the white metal Piat. Again, excuse the paint stuck under my fingernails, I just can't get it out. Just trimmed into the shoulder there with a scalpel to make it fit. In subsequent conversions I've done for other things which I'll show you in other videos, I actually trimmed off the end of the Piat itself to make it fit a bit better, but that worked out okay as well on that one. So nice little addition to the squad. Mortars. The mortar I used here, I could have used the N.A.T.O Paratrooper mortar, but because the white metal weapons are a little bit chunky, I decided I would stay in the same vein and utilise the mortar that came with the Sergeant's Mess stuff as opposed to the mortar that came with the figures. As a result, this is what I got. Again, as I said earlier, there's only one mortar man comes with the box of figures. So what I did was I just chopped the one of the guys' right arm, rotated it, super glued it in place, and off I went. So you ended up with a team that looks like it's two different figures, kind of. It's convincing enough, I think. And off you go, and you have the very accurate type of mortar there, the 3-inch mortar, represented in white metal. Give it a bit of a paint, and off you go. So it looks quite well, I think, anyway, personally. Speaking of mortars, you also, with the Sergeant's Mess stuff, I got a 2-inch mortar, which isn't represented enough in plastic figures, I think myself. I can only think of possibly, is it Hat or Armour Fast did a release recently, and I think Revell in their British infantry, you get 2 or 3 of these guys, which is laid out something like this. So anyway, what I did there was again use a GPMG crew, trimmed off the weapons, the ammo box, to make them look like they're interacting with this little mortar here as well. I think it worked out fairly decently. So that's that. So back here, just to give you a bit of a look at these folks, in the front there you have the radio operator. One of them I've given a number 4 Lee Enfield. I'm not sure if that's going to focus. I'll just leave them down there and try and get it in. Can I cooperate? Anyway, so yeah, number 4 Lee Enfield with the spike bayonet in place. Radio backpack is concealed in sort of canvas there. Not sure if that's any remotely accurate to World War II, but yeah, works out okay. The other version of that is with the, I put the Sergeant's Mess Thompson submachine gun there, just to represent the Thompson. Again, it's the same backpack, same figure. These two guys, sort of what I term NCO figures, sort of waving guys on. One on the left, he has the Thompson from the casualty figure from the British 8th Army. And the guy on the right has a Sergeant's Mess white metal Sten to replace the Sterling that the original figure came with. Chap running, again, this one was actually quite an easy conversion. This guy has the, the number 4 rifle again with spike bayonet. I think they turned out okay. Again, as I say, they're not going to be accurate to World War II, 100% because of the webbing and the uniform variances, but you know, they're painted up accurately and they're given the relevant weapons. They look okay at a distance, and as I say, being a Matchbox fan and not having a use for the NATO guys, I had to think of something. Here we have the kneeling figures. The one on the left here is given the what is that, the number 4 Lee Enfield. Then you have the SMLE Mark III, and we have the Sten there as well. The Sten on that one is actually taken from the Revell guy throwing a grenade, I think it was. Just chopped it off him and off you go. In the background there, just to show you, if we can get a shot on those, the guy's advancing. This guy's been given an MP40 from, oh god, was it SE or SK German infantry? Just chopped it off him and stuck it in there. Bren gun from the, I have a feeling it was a Matchbox, either the LRDG set or the Monty's Caravan Daimler armoured car. Number 4 the Enfield rifle again with spike bayonet. MG34 from Plastic Soldier Company Hanamag kit with an ammo belt from Sergeant's Mess trimmed off something. Ammo belt's hanging on the wrong side at MG34 I think, but it doesn't matter. Another MP40 from, again, Esky or SC, whatever they're called, stuck in there. Number 4 rifle, Lee Enfield spike bayonet, put in there in place of the SLR. And Plastic Soldier Company Car 98 landed in there as well. Just for the kind of variation, I like the whole kind of captured weapon scenario. I think it looks pretty cool and gives it more of a World War II feel. Just see if I have anything else there for you. Ah yes, I knew there was one I'd left out. This one is a it's the Carl Gustaf guy again, but what I've done is I have trimmed the Carl Gustaf out, leaving the sight in place. Then I took one of the number 4 rifles, the same as the rest of the figures are armed with there, such as that guy back there, second from the right. Trimmed off the bayonet, and there basically you end up with a sniper figure, at least, kind of. But so that's that there. So that really was the extent of it. It took a while to do these conversions. Sharp blade, a bit of patience, and a bit of perseverance, and I got there. And they're, you know, as I say, they're converted to represent World War II as close as I can do so with my means at disposal. But I'm quite happy with them. I think they painted up relatively respectably. Again, as I say, things like the ammo pouches in the wrong place. Look, you just have to get over that. There's not much you can do about that in that scenario. Unfortunately, Matchbox didn't release British Paratroopers, so this is as close as I can get to it. Yes, they all do have the red beret. It would have been nice if they had some helmets. But of course, the NATO range of paratroopers that these are actually converted from didn't have any helmets either. And of course, as I've said in other videos, it's kind of indicative of the period that toy manufacturers would utilise such things as definitive headwear to denote particular regiments, battalions, or types of soldiers. For example, the Anzacs all wear the slouch hats, and the who else? Oh, you know, the Americans all wear the M1 helmet and what have you. You know, from that perspective, the Matchbox Paratroopers, had they been done in World War II, would probably all have been wearing a red beret anyway, so I don't think I'm too inaccurate there. But they're just, as I say, easy to do if you have a bit of patience and a sharp knife. Now, as I say, I am by far, usual disclaimer, not the world's greatest figure painter, so please excuse. Basic Humbrol colours brushed on using the Airfix colour chart because it was as close as I could find. And basically that was that. There's a rub of Null and Oil by Citadel over on top of it, and job done, off we go. So that's it. That's the N.A.T.O Paratroopers and the relevant conversions, and I think I'll leave you with the picture there of the N.A.T.O Paratroopers 1983 release by Matchbox. We will have one or two other conversions coming up again soon, and doing some sort of 8th Army British Infantry crossover stuff there, which I'll explain in probably the next video or the one after that. We're nearly out. We're pretty much out of the Matchbox boxed figures. As I say, one or two conversions to come yet. There's a British Infantry one, as I said, and possibly a German one, and that'll be it for the. Maybe an Australian as well, actually. So it'll be one or two, maybe three conversions, and we'll be finished with Matchbox figures then, I should imagine, and we shall start looking at some other stuff for you guys. Listen, thank you very much for looking at the video. I know it's probably a little bit long, but you know, there's a lot to be said. So there you go. That's it. Matchbox NATO Paratroopers over and out. Take care, guys. Best of luck.